Hi, thanks for watching. I appreciate you being here. Welcome. A few weeks ago, I started making some budget videos because I love watching those on YouTube. I love watching other people's budgets. I love watching how they spend their money. I love it all. So I thought that it would be a fun way for me to share and document my journey. But recently, I started thinking about expanding my budget series. And one of the things that I've decided to start doing was reveal my zero-based budget with you. In this video, I am going to go over what a zero-based budget is. I'm going to provide some background information on my family's own zero-based budget, and then I am going to do a detailed breakdown of the previous month's budget. But before we get into it, here's a little bit about me. Hi, welcome to my channel, and I'm glad to have you here. Here's a little bit about my family. Our household consists of myself, my husband, and my toddler. My mom also lives with us, but she's not included in our finances. My husband and I both went to graduate school, but we no longer have student loan debt, fortunately. I work in banking and he works in aviation. I handle all of the family's finances, and I love my role as the self-appointed CFO. I love talking about all things money, making money, saving money, investing money, and optimizing my portfolio and my finances in general. I look forward to taking you on a wealth building journey with us. I hope you enjoyed the videos and the channel as a whole, and I look forward to getting to know you. I am very open, so feel free to send me messages at any time or starting conversations in the comment section below. Okay, so what is a zero-based budget? A zero-based budget is a method where all of the expenses must be justified for every new period. Companies use that a lot, but individuals can use it as well. When companies use it, they typically make a budget for the entire year. Most individuals make their budget 1 month at a time. Even though some people do try and estimate a year-long budget, I happen to be one of those people, but the most accurate budget you are going to have is going to be month to month, because you never really know what might crop up besides your regular expenses. Usually, a zero-based budget starts at zero and it ends at zero. The idea is that every dollar has a job. When you start your budget on January 1st, you don't have money left over from December 31st, because the idea is you put all of that December income to work. There is no such thing as idle cash in a zero-based budget. The money goes either towards bills, paying down debt, investments, or maybe even medium-term goals, the ones that are not long enough for you to risk putting the money in the market, but not short enough that you want to keep the money in cash. So what you would call a sinking fund. Whatever budgeting style you adopt, there are always some pros and cons. A benefit of a zero-based budget is that it requires you to justify a use for every dollar. That means you are less likely to have money sitting around that has no real purpose, and you are less likely to waste money. Of course, the downside is that it takes a little bit of time because it requires more work. If you have to force yourself to justify a use for every single dollar that comes in, there's a little bit more thinking that goes into it. But I don't think that the downside justifies not doing it. Here is the anatomy of our own zero-based budget. My family's zero-based budget is broken down into 3 main categories. The first one is bills. These are our obligations. We don't have a choice. We have to pay them. This is how we put food on the table. This is how we keep a roof over our heads. We also have sinking funds to meet medium-term needs. And then we also have investments. Investments, whether it is for college for our son, where we save in his 529, or money that we put into our brokerage account for long-term use. You will notice one thing in our zero-based budget is that we have a lot of credit card usage. The reason for that is because we put everything that we can possibly put on our credit cards, we do it. You're probably wondering, how does she eat? We don't see any grocery allowance. Well, that's because I pay for my food with a credit card, so I don't really spend cash on food. What ends up happening is I get a bill at the end of the month and I pay my credit card bill. The same thing for gas and household and personal care items, or any purchase really that allows the use of a credit card. For example, I had an issue with my sink a few months ago and I needed a plumber to come in. He came in, but he did accept credit card payments. Therefore, I paid with a credit card. That's not something that's going to come up as an individual breakdown in my zero-based budget. What we will see is the aggregate when I pay the credit card bill. I do have a separate budgeting mechanism that allows me to track my expense categories so I don't go over, but overall, you will not see it in this particular budget. The reason why we do that is because we want the points. We want the protection that using a credit card offers. You are much more protected and much more insulated when you use a credit card versus when you use your debit card or even when you use cash. And it also allows for better tracking. I am registered for one of these popular websites that allows you to track every transaction that you create, and by swiping my card, it gets uploaded to that website and I categorize it. Also makes the tracking much easier. Another thing that you will not see in my zero-based budget is things that are related to medical. The reason for that is it goes out, but it also comes right back in within a matter of days, since we use an FSA to file claims and get reimbursed for anything that we spend. The FSA money is still our money, but because it comes out of our paychecks before we ever get to see it, it's not cash that we ever have to really move around. A good example of that would be if I pick up my prescription at CVS. I have a $10 copayment on my prescription. I swipe my credit card for $10. I immediately get a receipt, and within a couple of days, I use that receipt to file a claim and get some FSA reimbursement. That FSA reimbursement goes into my account. I use that $10 towards my credit card bill. So although the money is moving, it's moving in and out in the same amount and it zeroes itself out. So for the sake of simplicity, anything that nets to zero, I completely exclude from this budget. All right, let's get to the previous month's $0 budget. If you are enjoying this video so far, don't forget to hit the like button so the algorithm knows that it's good. And of course, subscribe for more content. If you think any of the information that I provide here might be helpful to somebody else, be sure to share it with them. On the screen, you can see my mostly blank Excel sheet for October 2022, where I am going to talk about all the cash flows for our family for this month. At the top here, you'll see I will start off with rental income. My rental income for this month was $2,950. If you've had the chance to watch any of my videos since June, I believe, you will hear me mention several times over the course of different videos that I'm having a plumbing issue in one of my units, which has resulted in my tenant having to move out, and that translates into a loss of rental income for one of them. The second item is my own personal income. I have a normal job. This is the money that I brought in for the whole month of October after taxes, deductions, etc. This was the net amount, $5,414. Number three is my husband's income. Same thing, just like me. He works in a different industry, but he brought in money from a regular paycheck. $9,047 is what he got in the previous month. The other income category consists of many different things that don't necessarily warrant their own section because they don't happen often enough, but they may happen sometimes. It could be something as small as a class action settlement. It could be something like a focus group that I do and I get like $100 or $150 for it. And then sometimes we get what are called solar renewable energy credits because we have solar panels on the roof. Those are pretty regular, but they don't come in every month. They come in every 3 months. So that category encompasses all of that. But this month we didn't have anything in October, so that was zero. As far as interest income goes, I made $22 in interest income. That's relatively high compared to how it's been this year because a lot of those high yield savings accounts are adjusting their rates on what feels like a monthly basis. On top of that, we've been adding some money to savings, which has resulted in higher balances now that we're 10, almost 11 months into the year compared to where we were before at the beginning of the year. And then the final category, FSA reimbursement. The reason why it's highlighted in pink is because it's not really real income, but it is money that does offset some of my credit card expenses, because when I have a purchase that is eligible for an FSA reimbursement, I will put it on my credit card so I can get the points, the rewards, whatever, and then I will always get the reimbursement claim in as quickly as possible, and within a week it comes out and I get that money. I never ever have to pay interest. I never even have to wait for the bill to come out. As long as you turn in your receipt in a timely manner, at least from my personal experience, you will get your money back pretty quickly. Because I do have expenses that I put on those cards, I think that adding those FSA reimbursements does give you a better picture of what my expenses actually look like. So for the month of October, I got $99 in claims. That brings us to a total cash flow in of $17,532 for the month of October. The next category is money out. These are all the expenses we have to incur to live our daily lives and meet our obligations. This is our cash flow out. The first line is housing for us. This is where we live and lay our heads at night. $2,700 was the expense for that. The next category are some of our rental expenses. That would be specifically the mortgage, taxes, and insurance. And for the month of October, it totaled $2,525. And that's slightly smaller than the previous month because there was a slight decrease in the escrow needs that we had. The third category is labeled rental expense. That would be rental expenses that aren't mortgage and insurance, but they are also not necessarily the responsibility of the tenant. Things like maintenance, water, trash, landscaping, snow removal, electricity for common areas, all of that falls in this category. And for the month of October, the total was $1,185. If you are really observant, which I'm sure you probably are, maybe you don't care enough about this, you will notice that there was a slight increase in this one, but that's because one of the bills that we get, it comes in quarterly. It's not a big jump for anything in particular. It's just that there's a quarterly water bill, which resulted in that slight increase for the month of October. And then for the daycare, which is a constant expense for us because we do have a child who's in daycare, but I am going to input the information slightly differently. The total expense for the month was $1,690, but part of that was paid in September in order to hold his spot for the month of October, $385. That means we ended up with a total daycare expense of $1,305. Like I said, this is not the full amount for the month, but the cash flow came out in September rather than this month. If we had decided not to enroll him, we would have forfeited that amount, but because we did enroll him, we were credited that amount for the month of October. The next expense is the car note. We only have the one, but it adds up to $940. If you think this is a high car note, you are correct. There is a story behind it. If you're curious, I will certainly link that in the description box below, and you can take a moment and check that out when you're done with this video. And the next categories that we're gonna go over, they're mostly credit cards. And you will see that on this list, there are a lot of things that don't show up. That's because they are being charged to the credit cards, which are then getting paid in full, which is what the PIF letters in parentheses stands for. They're acronyms for paid in full. I do use credit cards. I believe in credit card use, but I don't believe in credit card debt because those interest rates are atrocious. With that said, because I do use the credit cards and I try to maximize the rewards, almost everything that I can put on a card, I do put it on a card, knowing that I do have the cash and I do have the discipline to pay it off in full. We don't carry any balances. So any amount that I quote here is the amount that is required to completely wipe out that credit card balance and make it zero. That's why there are a lot of things that we spend money on that you won't necessarily see here. For example, we do have Netflix, but you're not gonna see that here. I put all my grocery shopping on the credit card, gas for the car. In fact, even the heating costs that I talk about, the high heating costs that I talk about in my regular monthly update videos, all of that also goes on the card. With that said, the total amount for the American Express Rewards Gold Card that we have for the month of October was $3,125. Ouch. The next card that we have is the Chase Sapphire Reserve Card, $615. And then the third one is the Bank of America credit card. That is my oldest line of credit. I love that card because it does wonders for my credit history and the age of my credit. I like to provide context when I say how old something is. If that card was a person, it would be in high school right now. That's how old it is. So I do everything I can to make sure that they don't close it, and that includes putting some amount on the card once in a while, enough so that it has activity, but not so much that I'm losing out on opportunities elsewhere, because really the rewards in that card are simply not very good. For the month of October, we put $252 on the Bank of America credit card. And over here, you will see something new that you haven't seen before. If you are a viewer, if you're not a viewer, you might not notice, but I'll tell you anyway. Fidelity. So I have the Fidelity rewards card. I added Fidelity to my wallet, or to some extent, because I don't carry it with me. And the first bill that I got for this month was $613. And I'm gonna take a moment here and talk about that Fidelity card. The reason why I signed up for it is because there's no denying that 2% cash back on everything that you spend money on is a pretty decent deal. Also, there's a feature where you can set it up and that cash back gets automatically deposited into your brokerage account. Now, for somebody who already has 3 credit cards where everything is getting split all over the place, why do I have another card being added to to this entire situation. The American Express Rewards card is fantastic for food and travel. 4 times the points at grocery stores, 4 times the points at restaurants. The Chase Sapphire Reserve card is also very similar. It's fantastic for food and travel. 3 times the points at restaurants, and you get 10 times the points on Lyft rides. My husband does travel a lot for work, so when he goes out and he swipes that card, we are racking up those 3-time and 4-time rewards. We are racking up those 10-time rewards for Lyft, and we are not responsible for the bill because he is getting reimbursed through work. But there are other things that we spend money on that we do not get any extra rewards. It's just the 1 point that we get for every dollar that we spend. When I pay my cable bill, when I pay for Netflix, when I pay my cell phone bill, or when I get an oil delivery to heat up my house, I get 1 point, no matter what card I use. Whether I use the Bank of America, the American Express, or the Chase Sapphire, I only get 1 single point. But then I was thinking, and I said, if I got that Fidelity card and I started putting on that card only the things that I have to spend money on anyway and I get no other rewards for. I don't get to put food on it. I don't get to use it as an extra shopping bonus, but things that I already have to spend money on, like trash collection, why not get 2% cash back on something that I have to pay for anyway? So that was my reasoning. I applied for it. I got approved for a 5-figure balance. And now on that card, I am putting only the things that I have to spend money on anyway, but that don't give me any extra rewards anywhere else. So that's what that is, $613. And then finally, it's the Target Red Card. I only use that one when I want the 5% discount off at Target, and only if the price is either comparable or it's better than I can find anywhere else. And then at that point, it makes sense for me to use it. And that means I don't use it most of the time, which is the reason why I got a letter from them not too long ago saying that if I don't use it, they would absolutely close it. Because of that little heads up that they had the courtesy of offering me, I did put a very small amount on the card that is not yet due, and that is not going to be reflected here. So it was 0 for this month, but next month you'll see a small balance for that. And next, the electric bill for this month was $79. And the last regular category that we have is insurance on our personal items and the 2 vehicles that we have. This excludes homeowners insurance. The total was $220 for the month, and so far it's been a pretty fixed amount. We don't know what the premiums are going to do next year, but that's what our premiums are, $220 for personal items and 2 vehicles. And the last category is other expenses. For this month, the only other expense that we had was $380 for landscaping. That's not an expense that comes up every month. That's just the amount that we had to pay in October for a couple of weeks worth of landscaping at the end of August and all of September. All right, so if you look here, that is the money that we have left over, evidently income minus expenses, $3,593. But if you look over here in this gray box, you'll see the amount is the same. The slight difference is the description. The goal is $0. When I'm done with everything on this spreadsheet, my aim is to have a $0 balance right here, because it means that I handled the money very well. If I have a negative balance, that means I overspent. And if I have a positive balance, that means I am not optimizing the money. I'm not maximizing it. I am not putting it to work the way that I should, and I'm not necessarily being super efficient with it. I have to find a job for every single dollar of that $3,593. And where I'm going to do that is right here in the category of saving and investing. The top category is the Roth IRA for my spouse. That amount is $0. That's because we already maxed it for 2022. We maxed it out in June. We were doing $1,000 every month until we reached the max. For myself, my Roth IRA was actually maxed out in January. I am tired of complaining about this, but I regret that decision because, as you can see, the market has taken a beating since January, and all of that money has effectively disappeared. I do know that at some point it will come back, and I'm not gonna panic sell, but it is still frustrating to see the same balance that I had on December 31st, 10 months later, even though I put in $6,000 in there. With all of that being said, $0 was the amount that I put in. I am going to skip the 529 really quick. I am gonna go to the Treasury I bonds. Treasury I bonds are still a pretty decent rate. In fact, in addition to paying the inflation inflation rate of almost 7%. It's like 6.89. There is now a base rate that you can get if you bought after October 31st. Starting in November, they're going to offer 40 basis point as the base rate. But I already maxed out my I-bond allocation because there is an annual limit. I maxed it out in January, so we did not put anything in there. Next up is the American Express High Yield Savings Account. That is the money that we use as one of the tiers of our emergency fund. You'll see that the Treasury I-bonds also say emergency fund, but evidently a high yield savings account is going to be much more liquid because it's not going to take as long for the money to be transferred out. And also when you have I-bonds, your money is locked up for a period of a year. So we use tiers as part of our emergency funds. If you want to know more about emergency fund, I do have a detailed series on the topic, a 3-part video series that I can link in the description below. So make sure you check that out. But I actually did not add anything to my American Express high yield savings account either. I do feel like we are at a good place in our emergency fund. Now, I am going to go straight to the brokerage section. And this month we did $2,700 in our brokerage. I don't know if I have a goal of necessarily retiring early, but I do know that I have a goal of building wealth and having financial independence. Am I going to retire? I don't know, because my job is not necessarily difficult. It's not like I do backbreaking labor, like I'm some kind of bricklayer or my knees are going out and I'm on my feet all day. I have a desk job that I enjoy doing, and that isn't a threat to my health or anything. Of course, I would like to spend time with my family, but even as I get older, I am not necessarily gonna have a lot of difficulty working as long as my brain is sharp. I'm not entirely sure if I have a goal of early retirement, but I do definitely unequivocally do have a goal of financial independence and wealth building. Because I have that goal, once I was able to pay off my student loans, I made a plan to start saving very aggressively outside of retirement accounts. In addition to maxing out our IRAs and our 401ks for both of us, I decided that I was going to boost our brokerage account contributions. Last year, I set a number that I thought was pretty ambitious or even aggressive, which was saving a minimum of $1,500 every month. And last year, I was able to do it consistently. This year, same thing. I have been able to do it consistently. My goal was to do a minimum of $1,500 no matter what. I was nervous about it because I thought that I would potentially fail, because that did seem like a high amount, especially since we weren't necessarily doing that before. But it's been a breeze. We've found ourselves in situations where we've been saving even more than the $1,500. As you can see, this month we did $2,700. In previous months, more than $2,000 actually has not been that odd for us to do. It will vary, but because I have no cap on it, but I did set a floor of $1,500 every month. Now, the 529 plan, that is the college saving plan for my son. And for this month, we did $917. His number has fluctuated throughout the year as well for different reasons. When we either had more money or when he wasn't going to daycare, we were using the money that we normally would have been paying towards daycare to boost his college savings plan. 917. Why does it end in 7? That's a really weird number. That's because he has two 529 accounts. One of them is an account that we have to open with a specific brokerage if we want to get the tax deduction at the state level. The tax deduction that you can get at the state level, the most you can get is $2,000. If you take $2,000 divided by 12, it's $167. We put the minimum in that account just to make sure that we meet the tax requirements. The other money goes into a different account. That's why a lot of his 529 contributions do end in some 7 number, because what I do is I aim to put 167 in the account that I have to use in order to get the state tax deduction. 167 times 12 is $2,000. And in the other account, I put any other extra money that I have to put in. So we will never do less than 2,000. Well, never say never, because you don't know what's going to happen. But the goal is to do no less than 2,000 a year. And then any extra goes into the other account. 917 is the 167 going into the account that qualifies for the state deduction. And then the rest of it is the 750 that went into our brokerage of choice. But you will see here that I said that I should not end with a negative balance. I shouldn't end positive, but I also shouldn't end with negative. I went into the sinking fund and I took out $24 to round myself out. And as you can see here, the final balance is now 0. This is it. for the zero-based budget in October. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave me feedback, comments, questions about our family finances, about the spreadsheet in general, and about your own budget. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know what you think of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you in the next one. I would like to continue sharing my thoughts on all things money with you. So I would appreciate it if you could help out the channel by liking this video and sharing it with anyone you think might benefit from it. If you want to see more content, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can know when new videos come out. I'll see you in the next one.